guys, welcome back to another Jungles Travels. My first vlog for 2 months. As you know, I did Vlogtober, and after Vlogtober I decided to take a little bit of a break. So it's my first vlog for 2 months, and my first vlog of 2021. Happy New Year to everybody. And what a great way to start the year. National lockdown number 3. So, with us being in another lockdown, it means, yet again, we are still restricted on travel, which is a bit bad when you're a travel channel. So the only places we can travel to are places within our locale. So over the next few weeks, while we're in this national lockdown, which isn't a bad thing, unfortunately the only places I can bring you are places within Greater Manchester, which is in my locale. So I'm going to try and find some interesting places for you all to visit. So if you live in Greater Manchester and you're struggling for somewhere to visit, stay tuned. So the first place we're going to go to is just behind me over here. And it's quite an interesting place. Let's go and have a look. So the first place we're heading to is just across there behind me. No, not the reservoir, lovely as it is. Just to the right of the reservoir you'll see Castle Hill, and just on top of it you can see the outlines of a 1st century Roman fort, and that's where we're heading. See what we can see. So it should be quite interesting, so let's head down there and see what we can find out. So it's actually a bit hard to make out what we're actually looking at, but here's a couple of aerial pictures just to show you from above. So it's actually quite interesting. Let's go over and have a look. So, this is the car park, as you saw. As you can see from behind me, it's quite busy, it's quite popular. And so we're heading just up there. There's a nice little information board for you. Just tells you a bit about the valley and the water system. So there's a nice information plaque here telling you all about Castleshaw through the ages. If you want to pause and zoom in and have a read, feel free. Well, even though it's actually quite cold, it's actually quite a really nice day. So, heading up this hill, the fort is on top of this hill, which, as I said, from up there is called Castle Hill. Can you guess why? Because it had a castle on it, or Roman fort anyway. So this is the Roman fort. You can just see the outlines of it there. So it was an earth and timber fort. And if you look on here, check out this picture. So this was the original fort, and then this was the little fortlet, which was built later. I'll explain that to you in a minute. And there is a Roman soldier in all his regalia. Now I bet he absolutely froze his arse off up here 2,000 years ago, because it's bloody cold now. Imagine if you were just wearing that. Especially when you think a lot of these Roman soldiers, they weren't British or anything like that, they were all European. So they were used to warmer climates. They were like Italians, Germans, Spanish, French, but anywhere that Rome invaded. Africans, everywhere. And they were all part of the Roman legions, they weren't just Italians. So they're all used to warmer climes, so coming somewhere as bleak as the north must have been a bloody eye-opener for them. Right, let's go and have a look. So today, as you can see, no Roman soldiers, just a garrison of woolly pigs, as my dad used to call them. Chomping away on the grass. Thousands of years of history beneath them. Tell you what though, it's bloody cold up here. Absolutely. So it would have actually been, when you look at it, would have been quite a big fort really, wouldn't it? So what can I tell you about Castleshaw? Well, it was first built in around 79 AD under the rule of Agricola. Not a soft drink, before you ask. No, not soft in any way actually. He was a very powerful Roman general who actually worked his way up the ranks and became ruler of Britain, governor of Britain as they called him. And under his rule, he reunited parts of Britain that his predecessor had actually let fall into the stray, so to speak. So he reunited Britain, and he actually pushed the Roman Empire further north as far as Inverness, which hadn't been done before. So he was actually a really good general, had a lot of victories, a lot of success, so much so that he actually had more success than the Roman Emperor, to the point where the Roman Emperor actually called him back to Rome, not to praise him, not to say, well done Agricola, you've expanded the empire and done really well. No, because he was jealous, that's why. He was that jealous, he called him back to Rome, which Agricola did because he was a loyal servant, and he never took a seat of power again. He retired, so to speak. I think they did actually offer him the position of governor of Africa, of the Roman Empire in Africa, and he said no. So he stayed in Rome, and I think he was back in Rome for about 3 years before he died at his villa, and they suspect he was actually poisoned by the emperor, who was jealous of him. So there you go. Doesn't always do to excel yourself. But no, under Agricola's rule, Britain actually became quite good again. And he wasn't just a tough general, he was actually a really good philosopher as well, apparently, a very, very strong philosopher, and he actually educated the Celts. So you got a bit of history for you. What else do we know? Before the Romans took power here, they actually reckon this site was called Rigodunum, I think it is, which was actually a Brigant site. The Brigants were basically a tribe of Celts who ruled the largest part of the UK before the Romans came here. And they ruled from sort of like here all the way up to probably Hadrian's Wall, I think, that kind of area. And basically Brigantium is what's now Yorkshire. So basically an early Yorkshire man, wasn't it? But yeah, so this could be Rigodunum. The last person who ruled Brigantium, as far as I know, was Cartimundua, Queen Cartimundua, Queen of the Celts. And she was actually a loyal supporter of the Romans. So much so that she actually had Roman legions at her command when people tried to overthrow her, most notably her ex-husband. They divorced and then he tried taking her seat of power. And he didn't, because she had the Roman army behind her. So yeah, it's quite interesting really, isn't it? So there's actually been history here for thousands of years. In fact, just on the hill up there, just below, above the trees, you see where the barn is there? Well, just over there, there's actually the remains of a Celtic roundhouse. So, pretty cool. Bronze Age roundhouse even, not Celtic. So what else can I tell you about Agricola? Well, he wasn't the first member of his family to be killed by a Roman emperor. His dear old daddy was put to death by Caligula. We all knew who Caligula was. He was a right nutter, wasn't he? In fact, if I remember rightly, he actually married his sister. Keep it in the family. Yeah, Caligula actually sentenced him to death. His dad, who was also a Roman general and a great philosopher. Caligula sentenced his dad to death for refusing to kill another general. So there you go. It didn't pay to say no to Caligula, did it? So this looks like it would have been the remains of the fortlet, this little bit, and then the channel here would have been the moat going round the original fort. So the original fort was built in 79 AD, 1st century, and it was used for about 20 years, I think, before it was sacked, as they call it, slighted. It was used for about 20 years before it was slighted, which basically means destroyed, so that nobody else can use it. And at that time it was quite a big fort, as you can tell by the outline. Went all the way down there, and up there, and around, and that housed about a garrison of about 500. Incidentally, the Roman road runs from there all the way up, which went to York. It was put here to defend that, and then that goes all the way down through the valleys, over the hills, all the way to Manchester, to Castlefield. So the fort was slighted because they built a bigger one over the hill in Huddersfield called Slack. It's like a nice little gatepost there with a hole in it. Yeah, so they built a bigger one, so they didn't need it. And then it was restarted again in 105 AD. It was rebuilt smaller as a fortlet, which is basically what I'm walking on now, I think. Which is another earth and timber one, but it was basically smaller, and that only housed about 120 people. And that was used for about another, probably about another 15 years before that was eventually slighted again and never used again. And then the site was laid undiscovered until about 1700s, mid 1700s. But yeah, it's a beautiful spot. As you can see, it is quite popular. They bring a lot of schools up here as well during the summer. Kids do like history lessons here and stuff like that. which is good, you know, it shows. It's good to know what's on your doorstep. Now, just down there, I don't know if I can get down to it, but there's a little triangle patch of land on the other, in the valley bit here, and that's actually a vicus, vicus? I think it's pronounced vicus, which is basically a Latin word for village, and that was only discovered, believe it or not, in 1996. But if you look on Google Maps, you can actually see the outlines of little houses. I'll try and drop you a picture of it. You can see, like, I it only took them 1990s to discover it. I have no idea. Maybe it was through Google Maps or something like that. We are discovering a lot of new places through the wonder of Google Maps and Google Earth. So when this was rebuilt as a fortlet, it had a granary, barracks, a well, an oven, possibly latrines, and a few other bits and bats. So it also had a pretty cool thing called a hypercost, which was quite unique to the Romans. What's a hypercost, you're wondering? Well, basically hypo is the Greek word for under, and cost means burn. And basically, it was underfloor heating. How cool is that? And how do they know all this? Archaeological investigations. However, they've not been able to fully excavate the site because it is now a scheduled historic monument, so they can't excavate it. But yeah, early investigations did find stuff out. But nobody's actually done any archaeology down at the village site, which is unusual. So you never know what's down there. Because a lot of the Roman forts had villages, didn't they? People used to hang around them because it was safe, wasn't it? So, Castleshaw, there you go, Roman fort. Shame there's no structures here, but you do get an idea of what it was like. So once you've been and had a look around Castleshaw, you've got two choices then. You can either go up the hill that way, and that'll take you to a little village called Heights, which is at the top of the hill. It's a little hamlet. Or you can head down that way into Delph village. Delph is actually a really stunning little village, very pretty. The village of Castleshaw, where we are now, there's not actually a lot here. As you saw on the notice board, it used to be a lot of mills. I think there was 8 mills in this valley. And a lot of little hamlets, but a lot of it's gone now, unfortunately. So you mainly got the reservoirs, but then you could, like I say, you could take a walk into Delph village, which is where all them houses are down there. So let's head down to Delph, see what we can find down there. So yeah, like I say, down here, I'm not sure if it's down this bit or down that bit, was the vicus, which was basically a Latin word for village. Just there, you can see a grouse. You see the grouse running along? That would have been on the Roman menu 2,000 years ago, wouldn't it? Along with a few sheep, bit of lamb, bit of grouse. Live like the Romans. Now I don't think the telegraph poles were part of the vicus. Nope, there's another grouse there. And there's another one. There's quite a few around here, aren't there? Right now I wouldn't mind a bit of the famous grouse. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd warm the cockles up, wouldn't it? There it is, bobbing along. Actually quite a lot of grouse around here, to be fair. So, according to my Google Maps on my phone, this, where I'm stood now, is the heart of the village. Of the Roman village settlement that was at the side of the fort. But nothing's known about it because it was only discovered in 1996, I think it was, or 93, somewhere in that time. So there's actually very little known about it. So we don't know how many people lived here, how big it was, there's been what the houses were made of, anything like that. It's quite sad really. Because in today's day and age, you think they'd be able to excavate it, find out a bit of history, put everything back. So we're a bit more delicate with things these days, aren't we? It's like when you look at the early Victorians when they excavated the pyramids back in like the 1910s, 1920s and 1890s. They just went in there, bulldozing through everything, ripped it to pieces, took what they wanted and left a load of rubbish. Which is part of the problem up there, because they did an excavation back in, I think it was around the same time, 1910, and the spoil heaps, they never moved. They just left them where they were. So what people think are part of the fort are actually spoil heaps. So it can be a bit misconstruing sometimes. But basically, this was the earliest settlement. So all the people who live in Delph could have been ancestors of the people who live here. You never know, do you? Anyway, let's crack on. So, from one ancient village, let's go to another. Right, so basically to get to Delph, you can either go down the main road there, then you come to the crossroads and you turn right, or you can go down Delph Lane here, which is where we're going to go. Take the scenic route into the village. So if you actually wanted to walk from the Castleshaw centre, you can actually walk up that lane and walk down this way if you didn't want to walk through the valley. If you want to take a bit of an easier walk. As you see now, we come down into the village. And it's quite an interesting village really. Just walk around, get around this person. I think there used to be traffic lights here, but they're not there now. This church here is actually being converted to apartments. And I believe that they've moved all the bodies from the graveyard, because somebody said they were stacking all the gravestones up in the corner and putting all the bones in bin bags, which is a little bit macabre, and I'm not sure if that's the way they're supposed to be doing it. But here we are over the bridge into Delph village, so we'll park up and we'll go and take a walk around this pretty little village. If we can find somewhere to park, because it is notoriously bad for parking. Oh, shit. Oh, hang on a sec. as you can see. Where I'm going to go up, and he's been reversing really, really slowly. If it goes any slower, he'll be stopped. Just pull in here so this guy can get past. He wasn't very happy then. Tough two it is. And I think I should be able to park here behind the Methodist church if there's any spots. Which there isn't, I don't think. One disabled spot, and I'm not disabled. Right, I'll find somewhere to park up and I'll get back to you in a minute. Right, so I found somewhere to park. So let's go and have a wander around Delph and see what we can see. There's a new surgery. Very nice. It's got a lovely little chapel cemetery here, dating back quite far. And just there, I never knew this actually, because I've been here before and never actually looked properly, but this is the chippy there, and I didn't realise that gravestones were basically the back garden of the chip shop. It's quite strange really, isn't it? But there is actually some beautiful gravestones there. 1884. I'm guessing originally his cross would have sat on top and it's been knocked off. Much like that one. Very nice. Anyway. A nice little chapel garden. But we didn't come here to look at gravestones, did we? Let's have a wander around. So that bridge round there looks like it takes you over to the allotments, and that actually takes you through the valley to Denshaw. Looks like that would have been an old building at some point, wouldn't it? Now demolished. Right, so let's head over that way. Beautiful though, isn't it? There's another little bridge there actually, isn't there, as well? So in the space of not a short distance, you've got basically 3, 4, 5 bridges spanning a little stream and river where the two meet. Height of water, July the 13th, 1872. Wow. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And how big is that wreath? Wow. Or garland. How much called a wreath or a garland? When it's Christmas, are they called a garland? Yeah, aren't they? So there's the original bridge, and there's the footbridge that they built outside of it. And there is the beautiful village of Delph, where a lot of my ancestors actually come from, believe it or not. And there's the little chippy. 1769, and we saw the gravestones behind it. How gorgeous is that? They actually look like new lock gates, don't they? Stop flooding. How cool is all this? Beautiful, isn't it? Interesting fact about that church, actually. Somebody told me there was, back in the 1920s, there was a Polish guy called Adolph. His gravestone was in the corner. And he lived in Delph, and he came to Delph because he fell in love with a local lass. And then they broke up. And he was that heartbroken that he committed suicide. And the church wouldn't give him a proper burial because he committed suicide, and it was classed as a sin back then. So apparently he had a non-church burial but was buried in the churchyard. But from what I can gather, about 2,000 people from the village actually turned out for his funeral and lined the streets to give him a proper send-off, because he was a well-loved guy. So it's really sad, that, but it shows you what a great community spirit they had back then as well. Check out the V-dub over in the corner, very nice. Not too keen on the colour, but yeah, not bad. So the mill you see there, that mill is called the Raspin. Why is it called the Raspin? Well, it used to be a sawmill, and the raspin was the sound of the saws. So that's why it's called the Raspin. And the street it's on is actually called the Sound. And then after it became a sawmill, it became Saddleworth Woolen Company. And Saddleworth Woolen Company went bust about mid-1990s. They got bought out by, well, the buildings got bought by another local firm, Gleddles, a big local mill industrialist. I used to work for them. And it's still a woolen mill to this day. And it's actually now houses Malaloo's, which is one of the oldest woolen mills in the district. They were originally situated at Bailey Mill, which is the one that burnt down, which I showed you in one of my earlier videos. And they moved out of Bailey Mill. Gleddles bought Malaloo's, moved them into this one because it was better laid out. Bailey Mill was a very difficult site to get to if you had like a 40-foot wagon or something like that. And the idea was that they were going to convert Bailey Mill into flats. However, 3 years ago it burnt down. Check out that split screen, very nice. So there you go, that is the former building of Saddleworth Woolen Company, formerly the Raspin. I used to work there. In fact, I've actually worked there for 2 different companies. I worked there when it was Saddleworth Woolen, and again I worked for Gleddles when they bought it. So yeah, bit of local history for you. Just across there we have the Cooperative Hall, which now houses the Delph Players, which is like a local Saddleworth amateur dramatics company, who actually have quite good reviews apparently. So if you ever want to see a theatre while you're here, obviously post-lockdown, then go and check them out, see what's on. Check that out. That's actually a long wheelbase as well, isn't it? Which is unusual. You don't really see long wheelbases. Beautiful. Not what we came here to see, but you got to look at a van every now and again, haven't you? Vanderbilts. Oh, nice. Never actually seen one with a double split screen back window as well. Very unusual. That's the name of it, Millgate Theatre Company. I couldn't think of the name before. And then just on the corner there you've got the library. So you've got the theatre entrance with the steps and theatre entrance without the steps. I don't actually know what Millgate Theatre was before it was the theatre, but actually it was a co-op, wasn't it? It just says on the building. Idiot. How nice is that though? Very steep though, isn't it? You find that in a lot of these old Yorkshire villages. Look at that mini phone box. It's cool. It's a nice Indian restaurant. That's shut. So there's Delph village. So you got a co-op, post office, craft shop. And there used to be a couple of little cafes. I don't know whether there still is or not. A few good pubs. But it's a beautiful little village. Just full of little back streets and little back alleys. All these are actually back-to-back houses. Which, if you're not familiar with a back-to-back house, it's basically a house at the front and a house at the back. Back-to-back. So you got little houses on one side and little houses on the other. You know what they did in the old days? A lot of time, well, modern days, is a lot of people buy the ones behind and knock them through into one house. But a lot of them are still back-to-back. So they're all double fronted, but tiny. You look at them two buildings there, they used to be shops, didn't they? But they've actually been stood empty for years and years and years. Ever since I was a kid. And I believe they're owned by the family of the farm behind. So just there you see the White Lion, which, as I say, a beautiful pub. Always good for a pint and a meal. It's nice and festive, isn't it? One quick fun fact here before I go. See the house on there for sale with the little clock outside? Very old traditional house. Now, when my mum was alive, my mum grew up in Delph. She told me the old lady who lived in that house had lived there for about 80 years, all her life. When the old lady passed away in around, I think it was about 1990, they went in the house and it was still using gas lights. She never had any work done with it for like 40 or 50 years. So it was still powered by gas lights and everything. It's very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. My little tour of Delph for you. Come and check it out. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more and I will see you shortly. Adios, kids. So, that was Castleshaw Roman Fort. Can't get the words out now.